test. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much again for tuning in to my stream. I actually wanted to. Oh, just fix my audio. There you go. I actually wanted to stream a bit earlier, however, due to unforeseen or unfortunate circumstances, which is actually fortunate for me, my mom cooked one of my favorite dishes. And the unfortunate part of that is that my stomach never really agrees with it. So, yeah, there we have it. That's what happened. But thank you so much again for joining in for today. And actually, before we get back to Cyberpunk, I am actually thinking of talking about one of my favorite and well awaited games that actually was kind of disappointing, but also actually what I expected. And that would be Diablo 4. I've actually been waiting for that game since the release of Diablo 3, or at the very least, the release of the expansion, which would be the Reaper of Souls, as I've actually loved that series. I love the way that they set the stage and the story for it as well, although it probably won't be the best story out there, when it comes to actual story clarity and all that shit, but when it comes to gaming stories, those are actually one of the better ones, or at the very least for me, one of the best ones. So when they released Diablo 4, the first playthrough, I actually played a... what was it again? I played a druid, which was shit on release. Holy shit, that thing was so bad. It actually did feel like I'm, progressing with terms of strength of character. There was that progression and the lore wise that you would be getting that you're fighting demons. So at the start you're not very strong. You started actually pretty weak considering that I used, what was it again, a druid. It was a scuff gameplay. I didn't check or I didn't watch any guides for it. I just went with what I could use, what I found as an equipment that I could use, and then just basically mix and match what setup I could make and what I could try to make work. And yeah, it was an awesome experience. At the very least, for the first time, it was an amazing experience. The lore was actually pretty good. I enjoyed the journey. And I think that's where the fun ends, because after finishing the main quest, the main storyline, it does feel like it was cut short, especially the part where what was her name again? The girl left with Mephisto's Soulstone. It kind of bummed me out with that regard, since it kind of felt like it was suddenly rushed. But yeah, the journey up until that point was actually super fun. However, the enjoyment of the game actually ended on that end, or rather, partially on that end, since the journey to getting stronger past level 50, I believe. I think I was 54, 55 when I finished the main storyline, since I was trying to actually enjoy every single side quest about it, but considering that it's one of the bigger games, or one of the more anticipated games in 2023, there was a shit ton of spoilers that came out. So as much as I wanted to enjoy the slow journey of doing the side quest and everything while trying to do the acts one by one and then finish the side quest along, I had to cut them short and actually try to, what was it again, try to rush to the end and only focusing on the main storyline. So yeah, once that ended, when I hit World Tier 2 and World Tier 3, and then eventually World Tier 4, I believe. The only fun that I had was when either was waiting for the world boss, which when I was still working at that time, it was a pain in the ass, especially since it could spawn at awkward timings, especially there were a lot of times when it would be spawning like 5-10 minutes before my shift starts, and then at that time, very rarely do you get a party wherein you would actually be able to murder everything real quick. So yeah, it's like that. It's a bit sad. And then the other sad thing is that they were forcing us to do the nightmare dungeons. That kind of sucks, since the things that I actually enjoy when it comes to Diablo 4 was the world events, since they kind of made the world feel alive. I actually enjoyed uh, how do I say this? I actually enjoyed playing Diablo 4 in a community manner, or in a community way, wherein I would just be randomly joining with people, doing the events on the overworld, trying to complete random shit, random events, and then being joined by random people. That was actually the most fun that I had. So when they forced us to, do the Nightmare Dungeon, to do the... What the heck were they called? I'm sorry, I keep forgetting about the term, since I stopped playing it midway, or maybe about a month after Season 1, since when I tried to do the Season 1 for Diablo, it felt a bit off, or rather, it felt a bit boring after the first few hours, since uh, if you skip the storyline, since you've completed it before, it would be possible to skip the storyline if you create a new account, or rather a new character on the seasonal journey. It actually gets boring with regards to the progression that you would make. I think I enjoyed doing fresh seasons or fresh starts with a storyline, since that actually creates a linear path on how you would be leveling up your character. But when it comes to, I think that's where also, sorry, I'm jumping into places to places, but yeah, I think that's also what made me enjoy Path of Exile. Although I do play a lot of games, or rather, I play most of the games that I play, MMO and everything else, as casually as possible, since I actually mostly play games while I am, or rather after work, so just a few hours. I don't really want to think too much about the games, or think or do a crap ton of research too much about games, so I try to casually enjoy games and try to figure things on my own. When it comes to Path of Exile, it's one of those games that I did just a little bit of research at the very least for the setting up of the builds, so that I don't actually explode and brick my build, since from that game, or for that game, I think their major turn off, or the major thing that would actually draw away or scare casual players more on that game would be setting up your builds, since the game does scale harder than other games that I've actually played, especially after a couple of acts. I think it would be Act 6 that you would actually feel the brunt of the difficulty on that game, since you suddenly, if I remember correctly, you would get a couple of resistance penalties, as well as the boss fights themselves. They actually do get harder as you progress on the acts. And by the time you reach, I think, Act 7 or Act 8, you would have to have a half decent build, or at the very least, have some sort of decent understanding of the game, or a base understanding of the game on how you would balance out your damage output as well as your survival. And I think that's why I actually enjoy, even though casually playing, I played it like a few hours a day, maybe 1 to 2 hours a day, and just aimlessly playing Path of Exile was a bit more enjoyable, especially when it comes to the leveling process for me compared to Diablo 4. Since when it comes to Diablo 4, if you played or you finish the campaign in Diablo 4, and then you create a new character on the season and then skip the campaign, it would actually feel boring, since you would be playing the same things over and over and over again. And while yes, there would be progression on the equipment that you would be getting, you would be fixing things, or you would be adjusting the build that you have or that you currently use with regards to what equipment that you would be getting. It does get boring real fast since you would be doing the same things over and over and over and over again. My god. I think I would try and play Diablo 4 like Path of Exile or a... Oh, good evening, Johari. I hope you're enjoying this random rant. I actually just wanted to, give out my opinion with regards to some ARPGs that I've actually played. But yeah, I hope you don't mind me ranting about this, and I hope you're enjoying your weekend. Where was I again? Yeah, I think I would enjoy playing Diablo 4 in a seasonal manner if I actually played it like I played Path of Exile, doing the campaign first before going over to the end game. Because that definitely adds this flavor of gradually progressing rather than just, getting onto the heat of doing the same thing over and over again. The Nightmare Dungeons, what was it called? Crap, I forgot the world events, the two world events that happened. But yeah, those are the main things that you would be focusing when you want to level up fast on that game. But yeah, since there are only 2 or 3 options that you would have in Diablo 4, it does get stale real fast. I think that the reason why I enjoyed Diablo 3 progression more than Diablo 4 is that you would be hitting the ceiling on the leveling part, and then you would just be farming for the equipments, which would mean that you would just need to worry about getting your equipment. But with Diablo 3, since they actually give out the chest that would give you one specific set for your class that changes every season, it actually didn't make the repetitive grind that that much of a pain in the ass, since you would be able to play a specific build, and then you would be able to have the power fantasy of, murdering stuff real quick at a certain difficulty. I think you would be able to do it now at tier 10, although I haven't played that in maybe a year or two. I tried getting back to it, but since I played Diablo 3 for I think about 2,000 or 3,000 hours or something like that, and mostly I just did it to, help random people do their levels, try to do some, what was it called? The Nightmare Dungeon kind of, or the Nightmare Dungeon version of Diablo 3. I just usually just do those things along with some random people, since basically there is a general chat community plus some easy community that you can easily find on Diablo 3 that wasn't available in Diablo 4. I think that's also one of the major turn-offs of Diablo 4. Basically, you don't have that ease of access to communicate with people randomly over the world if you are not on a guild, or if in case you're not on a specific location, in which case you would have very limited people to communicate with. But compared to Diablo 3, wherein there was a general world chat, and while they do have their numberings, so let's say for example global chat 1, global chat 2, those kind of things are still populated with a couple of people, a few maybe tens to hundreds of people at the peak, at the very least. So at the very least, that makes it have a sense of community. Even though you currently do not have a guild or a clan, you can easily find people that play with without, having to look outside of the game, like Discord and other social medias, which made it kind of nice. Although I think the reason I did not enjoy Path of Exile as much as Diablo 3 when it comes to the social aspect would be that as well. Or rather, no. When it comes to Path of Exile, the world chat is actually very good. I think the one that limited me from enjoying Path of Exile would be, since it's so linear, it's kind of hard to find people to play with, especially when you're just, doing your first playthrough or doing the campaign. if you wanted to do a casual campaign, since that's actually, I think, what I like the most when it comes to online, or rather RPGs, action RPGs, the hack and slash kind. I enjoy doing the journey with friends or with random people more than doing the super high tier end game content. But yeah, I think those are the main differences or the main rants that I wanted to say with regards to those games. But thank you so much for listening to my rant. And